Good morning.
Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning. Okay, do you have any questions? Do you have any question?
No, doctor, everything is clear. Thank you.
Okay, today we will discuss the chapter on argumentation, i.e., on how to write an argumentative essay. Did you read that chapter? Did you read the chapter? No answer.
Yes, doctor.
Did you read the chapter? What is it all about? Can you tell me what you have understood?
Yes, doctor, I can tell you about argumentative essay.
Okay, go on, Ola.
Yes, doctor, thank you. In the argumentative essay, we need more than just an opinion to make our voice heard. The writer attempts to persuade the readers by providing evidences. This kind of essays is more related to science, technology, politics. The body paragraphs should be at least 4. They contain explaining the reasons that support our thesis. Each paragraph should cover a different idea, also addressing opposing points of view, and disapproves them or explain why we disagree with them. The thesis statement could be divided into 2 parts. In the first part, acknowledge the other side's point of view. In the second, we state our point with suggesting that our opinion is a stronger view. This is what I want to say, doctor. Thank you.
Not at all. Thank you, Ola.
Can I, doctor?
Okay, go on.
Okay, so while writing an argumentative essay, we can't be objective. We have to clearly show our opinion and defend it. Through doing so, we have first to present our opinion and others' opinion and a refutation to show that our opinion is the right one. This is done through evidences, through statistics, through anecdotes, and so on to defend our own point of view.
Yes. Okay. What does the term argument mean? Okay, argument is a search for truth. Okay, i.e. we write argumentative essays in order to come up with a certain truth. So there is a difference between an argument and a debate. In a debate, we have two sides discussing a certain controversial issue. Each side supports its own point of view. At the end of the debate, we have a winner and a loser, i.e. one person succeeds at presenting and supporting his point of view, the other side fails. So that's why in a debate, we have a winner and a loser. In an argument, we don't talk about winners and losers because the purpose of arguing is to find the truth. Okay? So out of an argument, we may come up with a certain truth that may bring different points of view into a certain kind of unity. So in this case, the different points of view complement each other. So that's why we say in an argument, we don't have a winner and a loser. Okay? Now, the art of writing arguments is very ancient. It dates back to ancient Greece. I.e., it dates back to the time of Plato and Aristotle. And Aristotle himself has come up with a concept that we call an enthymeme. It is not mentioned in your book. You may write it down. Enthymeme. Enthymeme is spelled as follows: E-N-T-H-Y-M-E-M-E. What does enthymeme mean? Enthymeme, according to Plato, according to Aristotle, is an incomplete claim. Claim, C-L-A-I-M. Okay? So in an argument, there should be a claim, i.e. there should be a certain idea that we have to support or to argue against. This is the claim. Now, according to Aristotle, an enthymeme is an incomplete claim, i.e. a claim that is not supported by reasons, let's say. For example, you can say that King Lear is a tragic hero. This is a claim. You can say that King Lear is a tragic hero. So this is a claim, but this claim is incomplete because we don't know why King Lear is a tragic hero. So this is called an enthymeme according to Aristotle. Okay, so the enthymeme is an incomplete claim. Therefore, an argument is made up of an enthymeme plus reasons. Okay, so in other words, an argument should be supported by evidence. We don't say evidences because evidence is an uncountable noun. We say information because information is also uncountable. Okay, so an argument is a claim, and a claim means a certain idea that is supported by evidence or by reasons. Okay, so here I can say King Lear is a tragic hero because he has a noble cause. So in this case, this is a claim, and I have to support this claim. And to support this claim, I have to support the idea that King Lear has a noble cause. So what is King Lear's noble cause? So here I have to elaborate on this idea. Okay, so in this case, I say King Lear's noble cause is to build or to make sure that his kingdom will be built on Christian values and beliefs. So that's why he wants to pass the kingdom on to the daughter who shows him the greatest amount of love. So love in this case is not the love of a child for his parent. No, love here has symbolic dimensions. Okay, so King Lear may sound childish, as some of you have written on the exam last year, but this is not true. King Lear, as a man who needs love, pity, patience, and care in his old age, aims to say that this is what we need to have in order to build a Christian kingdom. So therefore, in an argument, there is a claim, and the claim is supported by evidence or examples. Now, usually, an argumentative essay deals with a controversial issue. Controversial means that there are different views on this issue. And the purpose of the writer of an argumentative essay is not to demean, i.e., is not to put down the people who uphold a different point of view. No, the purpose of the writer of an argumentative essay is to present the points of view of other people in order to show that his point of view is more feasible. Okay? And sometimes the opposing points of view may have good points. So we have to admit that they have good points or good ideas. So in an argument, we have to take into consideration the opinions of others. And in this case, if the opinions of others are weak, if the opinions of others are flawed, we have to show the flaws of the other point of view. That's why we have to rebut. R-E-B-U-T. I.e., we have to refute. R-E-F-U-T. We have to rebut or to refute the other point of view, i.e., we have to show its weaknesses to convince the readers that our point of view is more feasible, more acceptable. Okay, now in your career as students of language, you need to write argumentative essays. You may need to pick up certain ideas in a certain research paper and argue against them. So that's why we teach the art of argumentation in a course like this one. Okay, now to write an argumentative essay, we have to follow certain strategies. I.e., there are certain rules that we have to follow as we write an argumentative essay. They are mentioned in the book, and you have them. You have some 5 tips that are 5 or 4, I think, that are mentioned in the book. 5, yes. Okay, so when you write an argumentative essay, you have to take into account these 5 tips that are mentioned in the book. Now, the first tip that you have to take into account is that you have to use a tactful, courteous language. Okay, what does it mean? Okay, now those who claim that King Lear emerges as a childish old man have their own point of view, maybe based on a literal reading of the play. Okay, now I want to argue against the idea that King Lear sounds childish. So in this case, I don't have to attack the persons who uphold this opinion. My purpose as a writer of an argumentative essay is to deal with the statement itself, not with the person who said that statement. Okay, so to use a tactful, courteous language means that I don't have to attack the character or the personality of the person who upholds a certain point of view. Okay, so in this case, I don't have to say my opponents believe that King Lear is childish. Okay, you can't say that any person who reads the between the lines comes to the conclusion that King Lear is not childish. Okay, you can't say that a thoughtful person should read between the lines to come to the fact that King Lear is not childish. So when you use words or expressions like this, it means that you are attacking the person who upholds this idea. Okay, so that's why you have to use a tactful, courteous language. Okay, so instead of saying that my opponent, you can say that some people believe that King Lear is childish. So in this case, you use a courteous, a tactful, i.e., you sound like politicians, a tactful language. Okay, so your duty in an argumentative essay is not to attack or to criticize the person who upholds a point of view that differs from your point of view. Your duty is to deal with the idea of that person. Okay, so it is your duty to show me the flaws of the idea that King Lear is childish. Okay, so this is what we mean by using a tactful, courteous language. Okay, so in other words, you don't have to anger those who disagree with you. The second strategy that you have to follow is you should point out common ground. What does common ground mean? Common ground means that you should mention an idea that you share with your opponent. Okay, I will give you an example. For example, students argue that they don't have to write many assignments. Okay, students argue that they don't have to write many assignments, claiming that they can improve their English on their own. What does it mean? I will give you an example. Once I was teaching at a private university, and I was teaching a composition and rhetoric course, and I told the students that they have to write an essay every week, and each essay should be rewritten by the students. Okay, so what does it mean? It means that you write your essay, you give it to me, I read it, I don't correct your mistakes, I point out your mistakes, I use correction symbols, i.e.
We can't hear you, doctor. Can you hear the doctor, or it's just me?
No, he lost his connection. He will return back. Today he has poor connection. He will rejoin. That happened with us in the elective course.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes. Doctor.
Yes, perfect.
Okay, so I was giving you an example of common ground. I said we have 5 strategies to follow when we write an argumentative essay. The first strategy is to use a tactful, courteous language. Did you hear the discussion in detail? Were you able to hear me while I was discussing tactful, courteous language? Okay.
Yes, doctor.
Okay, so common ground means that we have, or you have, to choose an idea that you and your readers, your audience, agree with. Okay, and I was giving you an example of how to help students improve their English. And I said to you, once I was teaching English, a composition and rhetoric course at a certain university, and I told the students that they will have to write 1 essay every week. And they have to rewrite their essay, and to rewrite means I read the essay but I don't correct the mistakes. I point out the mistakes and I give the essay back to the student to correct her mistakes. And I said, through this, I believe, through writing and rewriting, the student can improve his English. Okay? Now, many students say that we don't have to write and rewrite. This means that you are a highly commanding teacher. So they claim that it is enough to write the essay. And in fact, I came across a student who dropped my section claiming that she could improve her English on her own. She said to me, I can improve my English on my own. I said, you can't improve your English on your own. If you want to drop the course. And she left the section. Okay? Now, to convince you of writing and rewriting your essays, I have to point out a certain common ground, i.e. a certain idea that I and you share. Okay? Okay, so how am I supposed to come up with a common ground in this case? So in this case, I can say that we agree that students take a composition course to improve their English, right? So you agree with me on the idea that you want to improve your English, and I agree with you concerning this issue. So both of us believe that the student should improve his or her English. Okay, so this is the common ground. Okay, so this is the ground that I share with my readers, with my audience. So if I point out a common ground that I share with the audience, I will succeed at winning the audience over, i.e. I will lead the audience to listen to my argument or to read my argument till the very end. This is what we call a common ground. Is it clear?
Yes, very clear.
Okay. Now, in addition to this common ground, we have to acknowledge differing viewpoints. Right? You have it in the book. Okay, what does it mean? It means that we have to show the readers that we are aware of the views of other people. So in our argumentative essays, we don't have only to present our own ideas. We have to present the ideas that are different than ours. And when we acknowledge the opposing points of view, we try to convince the audience that we respect other people's opinions. Okay? So that's why we have to acknowledge the differing points of view. So we don't have to ignore the opinions of others. This is the meaning of acknowledging differing viewpoints. Okay? So when you acknowledge, let's say, the differing points of view, it means that you will build your argument on a strong basis. Okay, so in this case, you will show the audience that your opinion is stronger than the opinion of other people. I'm not going to say your opponent. Okay, so this is the purpose of acknowledging the differing points of view. So it is to show that your point of view is stronger than the point of view of any other person. Okay, now in your argumentative essay, you have to acknowledge the differing points of view. Okay, so where do you mention the differing points of view? So here we have, the book mentions, in fact, 1, 2, 3. The book mentions 3 techniques or 3 methods of presenting the differing point of view. Okay, one way to present the differing point of view is to present it in the thesis statement, i.e. at the end of the introduction. So you have a certain issue, you write an introduction. At the end of the introduction, you have to write your thesis statement, as I said at the beginning of the semester. Okay, now the thesis statement in this case should be divided into 2 parts. Okay, so in this case, the thesis statement should be divided into 2 parts. The first part of the thesis statement should present the differing point of view, i.e. the point of view that you disagree with, and the second part should present your own point of view. Okay, here in the book you have an example. Do you have the book?
Yes.
You have the book?
Yes, doctor.
Okay, let us have a look at the thesis statement that is written at the beginning of page 15, if you have numbered your pages, or page 321, the very beginning of this page. Although some students believe that studying a foreign language is a waste of time, 2 years of foreign language study should be required of all college graduates. This is the thesis statement of, let's say, your essay. The first part of the thesis statement is underlined once, right?
Yes.
Yes. So yes. So the part that is underlined once presents the point of view that you disagree with, and the second part is underlined twice. This is your point of view that you are going to support throughout your essay. So although some students believe that studying a foreign language is a waste of time, 2 years of foreign language study should be required of all college graduates. So this thesis statement shows the reader that the writer of this argumentative essay acknowledges the other point of view, which is presented in the first part of the thesis statement. And the second part of the thesis statement presents the writer's point of view. And you have another example. Skip the following 3 lines. While local TV newscasts can provide a valuable community resource, again, this is the opposing point of view. It is underlined once, and then you have a comma. And in the first example, you have a comma. Too often, such programs provide mere entertainment at the expense of solid news. So this is the main idea, or this is the argument of the essay. And this is the thesis statement of one of the essays that we have in this book. It is one of the student essays that we are going to consider next week. Okay, so here the other point of view is presented in the first half of the thesis statement. And your point of view, or the point of view of the arguer, is presented in the second half. This is number 1. Number 2, the opposing point of view is written as a subordinate clause. This is an incomplete sentence. Although some students believe that studying a foreign language is a waste of time, this is a subordinate clause. It is an incomplete sentence because it doesn't express a complete thought. So it is presented at the very beginning, and the main argument of the essay is presented in a complete sentence. It is an independent clause. 2 years of foreign language study should be required of all college graduates. Okay, so the subordinating conjunction although shows me that the writer of this thesis statement is against the idea that some students believe that studying a foreign language is a waste of time. Okay, so he presents the other point of view in order to argue against it. So I know that the second part, or the second half of the sentence, is his point of view. This is how we should identify the other point of view and the main point of view of the writer of the argument. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
In your essay, if you want to write the differing point of view at the end of the introduction, you cannot say some students believe that studying a foreign language is a waste of time, period. Then 2 years of foreign language study should be required of all college graduates, period. This is wrong. So in this case, I don't know which point of view you are going to support. Okay? So this means that the thesis statement is awkward. It is not clear enough. So in this case, I don't know which point of view you're going to argue for. So if you want to write it in the thesis statement, you'd better, i.e. you had the better, and this is strong recommendation in grammar, right? Had the better expresses a strong recommendation. It doesn't mean the past. It means a recommendation. It means I am giving you a piece of recommendation, right? You started
Can it
the
use for
model.
threatening?
Yes?
I mean, you had better can be used for threatening, or
For what?
Like threatening.
It is a piece of advice. And it indicates a strong piece of advice, a strong recommendation in English. Okay? And a piece of advice or a recommendation is an unbinding obligation. It means that I am not forcing you to do it. Okay? In other words, I am giving you a piece of advice. So whether you abide by the advice or not is up to you. It's up to you. Okay? So that's why had, better, ought to, and should are different in meaning from must and have to. Must and have to express a binding obligation. It means it is necessary. You are obliged to do it. And verb to be indicates a formal obligation. It means I am forcing you to do it. So if I say you are to study hard, it means that I am forcing you to study hard. Okay, so there is a difference between a binding obligation and an unbinding obligation. An unbinding obligation is a recommendation or a piece of advice. Okay, so had, better has nothing to do with the past. Okay, it is not the past form. Okay, it has only this form in English. So we say you'd better. Okay, so if you want to write the differing point of view in the thesis statement, you had better write it at the beginning of the thesis statement, and you should use a subordinating conjunction. Here we have although, we have while. Both of them are subordinating conjunctions. And you have to present your argument, i.e. the idea that you agree with, as a complete sentence, i.e. as an independent clause. Is it clear?
So we should separate them between by comma, right?
Of course, you have it. When your sentence starts with a subordinating conjunction, the first part of the sentence becomes a subordinate clause, i.e. it doesn't express a complete meaning. Okay? It is dependent. We call it is a dependent clause because its meaning depends on a main clause that follows it. So that's why after a dependent clause we have a comma. There is always a comma. You should have studied this in the academic writing course. Yes.
I have a question. If we start our sentence by
Yes.
ing, I mean starting from this point of view, comma, and we complete the sentence, then it's not a fragmentation, right?
No, it is a comma. But if you add a period, it is a fragment.
Yes, okay. And it is academic, right? To write to start with ing.
Of course, you can start with ing, you can start with ed. But this means that this is a phraseless or a verbless phrase. We call it a verbless phrase, i.e. it is a phrase that doesn't have a verb. Okay, so if I say correcting your papers, comma, I came across many fragments. I.e. while I was correcting your papers, comma, I came across many fragments. Okay, so correcting your papers means that I was correcting. But if I say correcting your papers, comma, you made many mistakes, this means wrong. It is wrong. Because the ing phrase, this is what we call modifier. The modifier should agree with the subject in this case. In other words, the subject of the following sentence should be related to the missing subject or to the implied subject of the modifier. Okay? So correcting your papers, I came across many fragments. Okay? It means that while I was correcting. So here I omitted while, I omitted I the subject, I omitted was, and the verb became an ing form, i.e. it became a gerund.
And can we omit I?
Of course, I said correcting
your
your papers, comma, I came across many fragments. So it means that while I was correcting.
Part.
What?
I mean in the second part, if we say correcting your exams, for example, comma, many fragments appear.
No, wrong. So it means that the many fragments corrected your papers. Okay? So that's why we call it a dangling modifier. We don't know where it belongs or to whom it refers. And you can say a Renaissance poet, comma, Shakespeare believes, let's say, in humanism. So it means that Shakespeare, who is a Renaissance poet, believes in humanism. Again, it is a verbless phrase. A Renaissance man, comma, Shakespeare believes in humanism.
This is anaphora, right?
What?
This is anaphora.
No, anaphora and cataphora have to do with relative pronouns, with adjective clauses. Okay? So in other words, it is Shakespeare is a Renaissance poet, period. He believes in humanism. So I have reduced the sentence, Shakespeare is a Renaissance poet, to a verbless phrase, a Renaissance poet. Okay, so anaphora, cataphora refer either backward or either backward to a certain noun or forward. Okay, it refers either forward or backward to something mentioned in context. Is it clear?
Yes, Dr. Clear.
Okay, back to our discussion. So as I said, if you want to write the other point of view in the thesis statement, you have to write it in the first half of the thesis statement. And you should start the other point of view with a subordinating conjunction. And in this case, the subordinate clause should be followed with a comma. Then you write your point of view in a complete sentence. Okay, so this is one way of introducing the other point of view in the thesis statement. Okay, this is the first technique. Okay, so you may acknowledge or mention the other point of view in the thesis statement. The second way to acknowledge the other point of view is to mention it in the introduction. Okay? So you don't necessarily need to mention it in the thesis statement. So you may mention it somewhere in the introduction. So you may write it in a sentence or in two sentences in the introduction before you present your point of view. And here in the book we have an example. So the first student essay to consider uses this strategy. Let us have a look at it. Turn over the page. It is the second page. This is page 322. Teenagers and jobs. Can you find it?
Yes, doctor.
Okay, the pressure for a teenager to work is great, and not just because of the economic plight in the world today. Much of it is peer pressure to have a little bit of freedom and independence and to have their own spending money. The concern we have is when the part-time work becomes the primary focus. These are the words of Roxanne Bradshaw, educator and officer of the National Education Association. Many people argue that working can be a valuable experience for the young. So this is the other point of view. Many people argue that working can be a valuable experience for the young. So it is written in a separate sentence in the introduction. However, however shows me as a reader that the writer of the essay is going to present a different point of view. It means that he is going to present his point of view, which is different than the point of view of many people. Okay? So however here indicates a change of direction, i.e. it changes the direction of the argument. Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay? However is a transitional word. And it indicates concession. Concession, C-O-N-C-E-S-S-I-O-N. Okay, so therefore, however, nevertheless, nonetheless are transitional words. And these words do not indicate contrast. There is a difference between contrast and concession in English. Contrast means a contrast between two completely different things. Okay, for example, you can say, I am an engineer, comma, but my brother is a physician. Here we have two completely different things, an engineer and a physician. And but indicates a contrast. A concession shows something completely different. You can say, I studied hard. However, I didn't pass the exam. So there is no contrast here. There is a concession. So concession means something like admitting, i.e. I admit that although I had studied hard for the exam, I didn't pass. So although, even though, nevertheless, nonetheless, nevertheless, however, indicate concession. Okay? So here, although many people argue that working can be a valuable experience for the young, comma, working more than about 15 hours a week is harmful to adolescents. Okay? So here, instead of using although, the writer presented the other point of view in a complete sentence. Then he followed the other point of view with his own point of view. He introduced his point of view with however. So however indicates a change of direction, i.e. there is a change of the direction of the argument. So there is a change from the counter argument, counter, i.e. the other point of view, the opposing point of view, to the point of view of the writer. Okay, so this is an example of how you write the counter argument in a separate sentence in the introduction. Okay, so after this counter argument, you present your own, i.e. your own argument. However, working, here you can use however, nevertheless, nonetheless. They have the same meaning. However, working more than about 15 hours a week is harmful to adolescents. So up to adolescents is an antonym. It is an incomplete claim. Right? This is what I was saying at the beginning of the session. Okay? So the antonym is an incomplete claim. Okay? To become a complete claim, you have to present the causes. Because it reduces their involvement with school. This is number one. So it means that I will have a paragraph on this issue. Encourages a materialistic and expensive lifestyle, another body paragraph, and increases the chance of having problems with drugs and alcohol. This is another body paragraph. So this thesis statement presents the point of view of the writer, and it provides a plan for organizing the essay. So as I read the thesis statement, I realize that I will come across two separate body paragraphs, each paragraph dealing with one main idea. Is it clear? Can you hear me? Say yes or no. Can you hear me?
Clear as
Yeah.
please.
Yes, doctor.
Okay.
Yes, doctor. Yeah.
Okay. So the first way is to present the counter argument in the thesis statement. The second way is to write it in a separate sentence or two sentences or three sentences in the introduction before your thesis statement. And the third way is the following. Okay? The third way means that you don't have to mention the counter argument in the introduction. Okay? So in this case, the introduction introduces your topic and presents your thesis statement at the end. So the students are leaving the lecture. Why? By the way, this chapter is part of the final exam. It is required. Okay. Okay, so the third way doesn't present the opposing or the counter argument in the introduction. The third way is to present the other point of view in a separate paragraph in your essay. I.e., you have to write a paragraph in which you present the other point of view. So in this case, you may need to do research on a certain issue. Okay, for example, we studied Dulci et decorum est, right? And I said Wilfred Owen is an anti-war poet. He is against war. And he believes that war decimates the lives of millions of people. Okay? Now, I may ask you to write an argumentative essay on war. So in this case, I will give you two different points of view, and you have to agree with one. So I may say, some people believe that war is an act of bravery and heroism. Some people believe that war is an act of bravery and heroism. Other people believe that war is a brutal process based on killing and hatred. Here you have two arguments. Then I say, which of these two arguments do you agree with? So you have to agree with one and disagree with the other. Okay. Now, if you want to mention the other point of view in a separate paragraph in the essay, it means that you have to write one paragraph on the other point of view. For example, you are against the idea that war is an act of bravery and heroism. So you can say, some people believe that war is an act of bravery and heroism. You have to state it in your own words. And you have to present the reasons why they believe that war is an act of heroism. So in this case, you present the ideas that support the belief that war is an act of heroism. You are done with it. So in this case, you present it in a separate paragraph in the body.
Doctor, without a refutation in this body paragraph?
Okay, now if you present it in a separate paragraph, you'd better refute it. Okay? Why? This is what we call the classical argument format. You may write it down. Classical argument format. This is the format that has been formulated by Plato and Aristotle. Okay? Now, in a classical argument, you present the other point of view, then you refute it. Okay? You have to refute it.
Doctor,
Yes.
should it be in the first body paragraph?
What?
Should it be in the first body paragraph to mention the opposing viewpoint or any other body paragraph?
I think no. You have mentioned your point of view in the introduction, right? And in the introduction, you didn't mention the counter argument. So you can't start with presenting the counter argument, then refuting it. You'd better write the introduction, the thesis statement, then you present your own evidence that supports your thesis statement. Okay? In other words, after the introduction, you present your point of view, then you present the other point of view in a paragraph, then you refute it. Okay? So you present your point of view, you present the other point of view, you refute it to show the reader that still your argument is stronger. So you can't start with the other point of view at the very beginning. Is it clear?
Okay, thank you.
Okay? Logically speaking, you should start with your own argument.
Doctor,
Yes.
if we present the counter argument in the thesis or in the introduction, we shouldn't come across them in the body paragraph anymore?
We can't hear you anymore. كأنه the doctor is not in the meeting anymore.
I think he got disconnected and he will be back.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Hello?
Yes, doctor.
Yes,
Yes, yes,
Okay, okay. I got disconnected because the electricity went off. Okay, I said if we present the counter argument in a separate paragraph in the body, it means that we are writing a classical argument. And I said the classical argument format has been formulated by Plato and Aristotle. So this means that we present the other point of view in a paragraph. We write the main ideas related to the counter argument in a paragraph. Then we refute, we rebut the points of this argument. Okay, so we take them idea by idea and we refute it one by one. Okay, so we have to refute it. Yes, if we mention it in a separate paragraph, we have to refute it. Okay, so now if you want to refute it at the very beginning, it means that you are writing a refutation essay. Okay, so I may give an idea and I say refute this idea. So in this case, you write it in the thesis statement and you show its weaknesses in the body. You have your own ideas. Okay, so when you mention it in the body, it means that you have to refute it, and you should mention it after you present your own point of view. Okay, so this is where we have to acknowledge the other points of view. Now the fourth tip is grant the merits of differing viewpoints, i.e. sometimes the differing viewpoint has certain strong ideas. You have to admit that it is feasible somehow. So you have to admit that it is feasible. In this case, you will show your reader that you are a good arguer who admits the good side of the other argument. You don't have to ignore the points of others, especially if these points are feasible to a certain extent. Okay? Then you have to rebut the differing point of view. Yes, as I said, you write the other point of view in a separate paragraph. This is number 5 according to your book. And do you want me to give you an example of how to grant the merit of differing points?
Yes, doctor, please.
Yes.
One in the essays that we have here. Okay, the essay that is entitled Teenagers and Jobs. You have the introduction, then the second paragraph, the third paragraph. In the third paragraph, another drawback of too much work is that it may promote materialism and an unrealistic lifestyle. Some parents claim that working helps teach adolescents the value of $1. Undoubtedly, that can be true. Okay, so this is a differing point of view. Some parents claim that working helps teach adolescents the value of $1. This is the other point of view, and the writer acknowledges, gives merit to this point of view when he says, undoubtedly that can be true. But then he says, it's also true that some teens work to help out with the family budget or to save for college. Again, he admits that this point of view is true. Then he presents his refutation. However, surveys have shown that the majority of working teens use their earnings to buy luxuries. Okay, so this is how you should merit or give merit to the differing point of view. Okay, and here it is like a common ground. You take a common ground, you admit that it is acceptable, but you present your point of view to show that your point of view is still better, it is still stronger, it is more feasible than this point of view. Okay? Now, if you want to follow the classical argument format, as I said, you have to write the introduction with a thesis statement that has your own point of view only. Then you develop, you elaborate on your point of view in 2 or 3 paragraphs. Then you present the other point of view in a separate paragraph. Then you refute it. You take the ideas one by one and you refute them. So by refuting the other point of view, you show its flaws, i.e. its own weaknesses. And in this case, you strengthen your position, i.e. you show your reader that your position is stronger than the position of the other arguer. Then at the end, you have to conclude. Okay, so this is the classical argument format. Now, sometimes we have a one-sided argument, i.e. you present your argument in the introduction, you support it in the body, you write a conclusion. You don't refer to the other point of view or to differing points of view. So in this case, we call it a one-sided argument. Okay, so a one-sided argument is an argument that presents your own argument only without referring to any counter argument. Okay, so this is one type of argument. The second type of argument is when you present the counter argument either in the thesis statement or in the introduction or in the body. And sometimes you have a multi-sided argument. What does it mean? Here it means that you present different points of view in your essay. So in addition to your point of view, you may present 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. You present more than 2 differing points of view. So in this case, we say that you have written a multi-sided argument. Is it clear?
Doctor,
Yes.
if we mention the counter argument in the thesis statement, we don't have to come across it anymore in the body paragraph, or
You may want to refute it, yes. Now in this student essay, wait a minute. In the first student essay, you have the counter argument in the introduction. And in the body, the writer picked up a common ground with those who disagree with him, and he refuted it. He refuted that idea. Okay, so if you want, yes, you may refute it in the body.
And Doctor, will you specify which argumentative essay we should use?
One, where on the exam?
Yes, on the exam. One-sided or...
Now, on the exam, if I give you 2 points of view, you have to deal with 2 points of view, not one-sided argument. To show me that you know where you have to present the other point of view. So in this case, you may like to present the other point of view in the introduction, you may like to present it in the thesis statement, or you may present it in a separate paragraph in the body and you refute it in another paragraph or 2 paragraphs. Okay, so you don't have to write one-sided argument. If I ask you to write an argumentative essay on the exam, you don't have to write one-sided argument. You have to mention the other point of view somewhere in your essay, either in the introduction or in the thesis statement or in the body. Okay, and if I say you have to draw on the classical argument format or write a classical argument, it means that you have to mention the other point of view in a separate paragraph in the body, and then you have to refute it. If I say you have to follow the classical argument format. Is it clear? If I don't mention the classical argument format, then it is up to you. So you either mention the other point of view in the introduction or in the thesis statement or in the body. It's up to you to.
Doctor?
Yes.
We used sometimes to write, for example, in each body paragraph, our argument, counter-argument, and refutation. And the second paragraph the same.
Repeat your statement, please. I didn't get your idea.
We used sometimes to write, for example, an introduction.
Mm.
Then in each body paragraph, we present our own argument, counter-argument, and refutation. And
in the same paragraph? In the same paragraph?
yes.
Why don't you present your own ideas first, then you present the other point of view and you refute it?
They used to tell us that both are correct. I don't know.
Okay, it's fine. Okay, it's fine, it's fine. Okay, it's up to you. Okay?
Okay, doctor.
Okay? Okay, now I prefer to use the classical argument format. I myself. So I'm not going to force you to use the classical argument format. Okay, it's up to you.
Plus, doctor, one more question, please.
Yes, go on.
Since all the paragraphs of our essay should be mentioned briefly in the introduction, is it acceptable not to mention the counter argument and to re-mention them in one of the body paragraphs?
Well, it's fine. I said at the beginning of the semester, the thesis statement may provide a plan for organization. May indicates a possibility. It is not a must. Okay? So the thesis statement may show me how many ideas you're going to discuss, or it may not. Okay, is it clear?
Yes, clear, doctor.
So the most important thing is that there should be a thesis statement that gives the reader an idea about what you're going to write, or an idea of what you're going to write about. Okay. Now, for example, on the exam, I may say the following: King Lear is a pathetic character. Do you agree? A pathetic character in literature is a character that causes you to sympathize with it, to pity it. But the pathetic character is not similar to a tragic character, simply because the tragic character is characterized by understanding, by thinking. The pathetic character is an unthinking creature. Okay? So if I say, do you agree? You can't say in your thesis statement, some believe that King Lear is a pathetic character. I totally disagree with them. This is not a thesis statement. Okay? So in this case, you may write an introduction. Somewhere in the introduction, you write that, for example, I may say Alcyonides, although Alcyonides doesn't make a mistake like this one. Suppose I said Alcyonides. By the way, Alcyonides is a Shakespeare scholar. He is specialized in Shakespeare. So if I say Alcyonides believes that King Lear is a pathetic character, do you agree? So you may introduce the topic and say Alcyonides maintains that King Lear is a pathetic character. However, King Lear is a tragic hero whose noble cause leads to his own destruction, if you want. Okay, so in this case, in the rest of the essay, you discuss King Lear as a tragic hero, i.e., you discuss his noble cause, his tragic flaw, his understanding. This leads you to a contrast with the pathetic character. Okay, so in this case, you can come to the conclusion that King Lear stands in contrast with a pathetic character. Now, if you have information on what a pathetic character means, you have to present it in a paragraph. Okay, so in this case, you contrast King Lear with the pathetic character to show me that King Lear is a tragic hero. Is it clear now?
Yes, very.
Okay, so we know that a pathetic character is a character that sacrifices himself or herself for the sake of others, but this pathetic character doesn't come at any kind of understanding at the end of the work of literature, be it a play or a novel. Okay, so I can give you an example of a pathetic character. Oscar Wilde wrote a fairy tale. He wrote two collections of fairy tales. One of them is entitled The Happy Prince and Other Tales. The other one is entitled The House of Pomegranates. Now, in the collection, which is entitled The Happy Prince and Other Tales, there is a tale on I think it is entitled The Miller. So there is a miller who exploits the simplicity of his friend, and the friend dies at the end of the fairy tale. And he thinks that he is sacrificing himself for the sake of his friend. So he ends up as a pathetic character. We pity him, but we don't consider him a tragic hero because he doesn't understand the consequences of what he's doing, and we don't. And he doesn't understand the fact that the miller is making fun of him, or the friend is. I think the boy is a miller. Anyway, I read it a long time ago. So a pathetic character is a character that doesn't achieve a certain kind of understanding throughout the course of the text. So in this case, if I mention the pathetic character in my question, you have to come across it in your paper. Okay, so you have to mention it somewhere to show that there is a big difference between a pathetic character and a tragic character. Is it clear?
Yes, doctor.
Okay, so
Yes,
in this case, when you say that King Lear is a tragic hero, you have to define tragedy, i.e., not the definition that you read in any course other than the Shakespeare course. So you have to present the implications of tragedy that I discussed in that class, i.e., the main elements of tragedy, i.e., the noble cause, the tragic flaw, and the understanding. Okay, so this is your own methodology. You apply it to King Lear, then you contrast King Lear with the pathetic character in a paragraph. So in this case,
Doctor?
you refute Elsie Knight's idea that King Lear is a pathetic character. Okay, so you can say that a pathetic character in contrast is a person who doesn't achieve a certain kind of understanding. He wins our sympathy, our pity, but he doesn't raised or he's not elevated to the level of a tragic hero. And here you contrast the pathetic character with the tragic character, i.e. with King Lear himself. Yes, go on.
Doctor, should
Yes.
we write in the introduction in general or specific things? Or can we define tragedy, for example?
No, the introduction should introduce the topic. The introduction should not define tragedy. Tragedy in this case is your methodology. The methodology comes after the introduction.
Okay, Doctor.
Okay?
Thank you.
So you write an introduction that leads to the thesis statement. In this thesis statement, you tell your reader that King Lear is a tragic hero, not a pathetic character. Then you define tragedy if you want, and you should define tragedy. And if you have a definition of the pathetic character, you may also present it somewhere. Okay, so the methodology is not the introduction. Don't start your exam with the methodology. Don't start your exam for this course or for any course, especially in my courses. Don't start with the methodology. This is unacademic. Okay, any more questions? Okay, next time we will discuss the two student essays that we have in the book. The first one is entitled Teenagers and Jobs. The second one is entitled Once Over Likely. Read the two essays and do the exercises that you have at the end. Can you hear me? Are you listening?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so read the two essays and do the exercises. We will discuss them in class. I think I may have something to say on argumentation. If we have time, I will do it. Then we will discuss the exam, and I think we have to do one more bibliography note. You should know how to write a bibliography note for an article that is published online, right? You should know how to write a bibliography note for an online text. We didn't do this, right?
Yes, right. We didn't do it.
And it is required for the final exam. The number of attendees decreased to 23 today. Why?
Maybe they have problems in their connection.
I don't think so, because at the beginning I think I had some, maybe 31. Anyway, so this is the end
Doctor,
of
I
the...
got disconnected. I don't know what you have mentioned in the last idea.
Okay, I said next time we will discuss the two student essays that we have in this chapter. Read them and do the exercises that you have at the end. Then I will discuss how to write a bibliography note for an online text, i.e. for an article taken or an article published online, i.e. taken from the internet. We didn't do this part, right?
No, we didn't.
Okay, so we will do it next time. We will discuss the exam, then we will say goodbye. Okay?
Doctor, any idea about the time of the exam?
Doc,
I have no idea. The exam may be held after the 15th of April, I think. We don't know. We haven't received any memos so far concerning the final exam. By the way,
I'll
the
study
second
already
semester will
completed.
start next week, right?
Yes, doctor.
Our spring
Yes, next
semester
week.
starts next week, I think next Tuesday.
طابت الدرس تبعك.
Okay. I will stop here because you have a class at 15 to 2. Thank you for attending. We will meet on Thursday.
Thank you, doctor.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Dr.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
Thank you,